The way these playoffs have unfolded can truly tell us about the future of the NBA. Will we go back to 2017 and have a new basketball dynasty? Or will we be blessed with another era of playoff basketball where anything can happen and anyone can win? But let's not get ahead of ourselves and focus on the matchup between the Dallas Mavericks and the Boston Celtics. A matchup for the ages filled with drama, winners, losers, and most importantly, a lot of pressure. It's time to see if it's true about pressure making diamonds, because that's exactly what each team is gunning for. The team that's in the hot seat is none other than the Boston Celtics. They've been here before and failed to capitalize. They are the team with the most playoff experience and the deepest and most expensive overall team. They are expected to win far more than the Dallas Mavericks due to their core having a ton of playoff and finals experience, especially for their age. Of course, they've had some recent additions, but their core remains the same, and the additions complement the team well, and it's looking like the Boston Celtics are absolutely stacked. And this time, they're matched up with a relatively inexperienced team. Aside from Kyrie Irving and Jason Kidd, the rest of the Mavericks roster has not made it all the way to the finals until now. But that doesn't quite make them an underdog due to the polarizing backcourt and insane clutchness of Kyrie and Luka. But the Mavericks are definitely on the hot seat as well, due to the fact that Kyrie Irving is now 32 years old. Which, don't get me wrong, we love the experienced and mature version of Kyrie, which is a perfect pairing with Luka. It's so crazy to say that in hindsight, because the trade was rated a D at first, and nobody believed a finals appearance would be the outcome.
The D grade that ESPN gave y'all, could y'all talk about just... Yeah, they gave him a D rating for the trade from the Nets.
Especially after the Mavericks' blatant tanking job last year. But hey, that got them Derek Lively, so it all worked out. If Kyrie wins without LeBron, that will actually be hilarious, and NBA Twitter will have a field day. But Kyrie is at that stage where he's still insanely dominant, but a slow decline in production wouldn't surprise anyone, especially at his age. Although he'll never lose his shooter's touch, he'll have to cut back on his insane versatility when it comes to driving and dribbling into defenders, especially for future playoff matches in the Western Conference. Which I'd like to take a second to point out, how is it possible that Luka and Jokic have yet to face off in the playoffs? And you could argue that had the Nuggets faced the Mavericks, the NBA Finals could have been a lot different. But hey, we'll leave that for next year. Most analysts gave the edge to the Timberwolves to make it to the finals from the Western Conference, but I think their inexperience and consistent cold stints from their stars solidified the Mavericks' gentleman's sweep. I don't think it would have been the case had they faced off against the big and experienced Denver Nuggets. But the Mavericks, compared to the Celtics, definitely had the harder path to the finals. The Celtics easily beat a Jimmy Butler-less Heat team in the first round, then beat a Cavaliers team without their brick wall, aka Jarrett Allen, and even Donovan Mitchell got hurt towards the end of the series. And lastly, although the Pacers had a very inexperienced playoff team, all the games were pretty damn close, and it could have gone either way if it wasn't for Tyrese Halliburton missing the last game due to a hamstring injury. Nonetheless, they did sweep their conference finals opponents, adding another series where the Celtics were not truly challenged. I'm so excited to see how all these young teams come back next year with some playoff experience and hunger to win. In the regular season, the Celtics and Mavericks faced off twice, which Boston won quite easily, but let's not go there. The Celtics have a history of being the best regular season team and even making it far in the playoffs, but eventually they choke. But this year they've added some necessary and quite expensive reinforcements in Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. Hopefully, Porzingis will be cleared to play so we can see how both Kyrie and Kristaps both played for opposing teams. It definitely adds some secret blend of herbs and spices to the finals narrative. The Celtics also need Kristaps in the finals due to their backcourt being nowhere near as good as their front court. Al Horford will be coming off the bench, which is huge, but other than him, if they don't have Porzingis, the Mavs will feast all over the glass. Although the Celtics have not been truly tested in their playoff run, it won't be an excuse if they lose. After all, they don't choose their opponents. But they definitely benefited by being a dominant team in a much weaker conference. On the other hand, if the Mavericks win, they'll be the first fifth seed to win an NBA championship. The only other fifth seed to make it to the finals was the 2020 Miami Heat team. We can make the argument that both teams have what it takes to win, and I agree. Boston has the deeper team with more experience, but they're also the more rested team and could benefit from the Mavericks' hard path to the finals. They would need to hash out their defensive rotations and figure out who's going to guard Luka and Kyrie, which on paper, they definitely have the personnel. Jrue Holiday is not the tallest defender, but he's built like a bull, and Luka has struggled against that type of defender in the past, both from Jrue Holiday and Lou Dort. Height isn't really a determining factor for guarding Luka. Stretch is much more important. Just look at how he dominated Jaden McDaniels, a great defender but relatively skinny, and unless you're 7'2", there's no way you're bothering Luka with a contest. Your best chance is to win the battle down low and make his legs sore. Jason Tatum has to be dominant and stick to his strengths to be able to lead his team, not settle for contested shots like he has in the past. Jaylen Brown is also a much better player than he was 2 years ago, and you could even say that if Jason Tatum fails to step up, the Celtics still have the roster to be able to win it all. But what would that mean for Jason Tatum? I'm sure he'd rather win a ring in the background than lose as the star, but for his legacy, it would be best if he did both. After all, he's still young and could come back next year, but the Celtics still have a lot of pressure to make it work. That's why, even though they have the most experience, depth, and strength, I refuse to bet on the Boston Celtics until they prove me wrong. On the other hand, the Mavericks have the best overall player, but are still relatively top-heavy. These two teams are so different, and it'll be a joy to watch the two coaches battle it out with their adjustments. The Mavericks supporting cast has been huge for them in these playoffs. Luka finally has not just a great partner in crime, but he finally has some competent big men that can catch alley-oops and, more importantly, rebound and block shots. Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively need to step up and take advantage of the Celtics' lack of interior defense when Al Horford is on the bench. Although the Mavericks have the disadvantage when it comes to finals experience, I would be a lunatic to count them out. Not only does Kyrie Irving want to silence the Boston crowd, but Luka and Kyrie are the best closers in the league if they can stay afloat through the game. I'm more confident in the Mavericks closing the fourth quarter more than the Celtics. But who else is going to step up for the Mavs? Will it be PJ, Gafford, or Jones Jr.? The Mavs need one of these players to step up and have at least one big game. It can't be all Luka and Kyrie. They need their supporting cast to do just that. Support them until it's time for them to close the game. Earlier in the video, I said that the Celtics' advantage was that they are more rested, but you could also make the argument that the harder path for the Mavericks is in fact a blessing. Having faced tougher opponents makes them play with a chip on their shoulder and are more motivated to get the job done. Aside from the NBA, Luka has the most experience out of anyone on the court, having dominated grown men since he was 15 in the EuroLeague. I highly doubt that not just the Mavericks in general, but Luka himself would fail to capitalize on his first finals run. You can't quite say the same about the Boston Celtics. At the end of the day, this will be a finals for the ages. Both teams have star power, defensive versatility, and want and need to win it all. In my opinion, it boils down to experience versus character. The Celtics have more experience and even more depth, but their track record shows that they are consistently the best on paper. Every year, the Celtics get better, and I applaud their front office for the consistent improvement. But how many times are they going to fumble the bag? On the other hand, the Mavericks really want this. They finally have a great supporting cast and have arguably the best player in the league. Definitely the best player in these playoffs so far. Luka is a star that is both level-headed and has a clutch and dominant gene. Pair that with Kyrie and some great shooters and big men, and I don't think it boils down to roster. I think it boils down to dominance. And if I were to bet on dominance, then I'm betting my house on Luka, not Tatum. I've said it once, and I'll say it again. Luka and Kyrie will not let this opportunity slip away. My prediction is Mavs in 7. I don't think the Celtics will just give up. My prediction is that there will be 1 or 2 games where the Celtics completely outscore the Mavs, but all the other games will be very close. And if they're close, I trust Luka and Kyrie to close out the game, hopefully with an iconic buzzer beater like Kyrie had back in 2016. Let me know in the comments who you think will win and what does a championship mean to Luka Doncic.